today's reading. Earlier this week, I was talking with a co-worker of mine, and I asked how her daughter was doing. She has a 6-year-old girl, and she said, fine. She said, you know, I was talking to her the other day and about this little girl that she played with. And I said, is that your friend? Is she your friend? She goes, oh, yes, Mom, she's my friend. She's my BFFWOE. And I said, you know, I'm kind of familiar with these chat acronyms. I said, BFF, I understand, it's best friends forever. I said, I understand that, best friends forever. Do you know what WOE is? Because I don't know. She said, I didn't know either. So I had to ask her, I said, what's WOE? She said, best friends forever without exception. Duh. Okay, now that's committed. Best friends forever without exception. That's the kind of friend I want, right? Isn't that the kind of friend you want? And today's passage, we're going to be talking about commitment in the book of Ruth and what it means. This is a verse, at least the last part there is a verse that we hear oftentimes at weddings because it reminds us of what commitment is really all about. Sometimes we even see it engraved in jewelry. And it's something that in today's society we really need to hear a little bit more about, is commitment and loyalty to other people. We oftentimes just play it down like it's nothing. I saw a letter from a young man, and it read something like this. It said, darling, because that's what guys in the South call girls, darling. And it said, darling, it said, I would climb the highest mountain for you. I would swim the widest stream. I would walk barefoot through the burning sands of the desert. You could burn me at the stake just to be with you. P.S. I'll see you Saturday if it doesn't rain. So that's the kind of commitment that a lot of times we encounter in life. You know, we're big on talk, but when it actually comes to fulfilling it, you know, when rubber meets the road, it doesn't always work out. But commitment is something that we, as people, seek out. Isn't it? We want that loyalty. We want that good friend. Life is full of all kinds of people that you'll meet. I've met a lot of people in my life. When I grew up, I had friends, and I can name them. I can recall the things we used to do, the games we used to play. But as life would go on, they would move out of my life. They're not, until Facebook came around, I didn't even know where they were at or what they were doing. Facebook, fortunately, has given some of us a chance to catch up with some old friends. And, we don't have much to say to each other because we haven't seen each other in 30, 40 years. So at least we know a little bit about the families and stuff. But people are in your life for a little while, classmates, co-workers, and they move on, or you change jobs, or you move on with your life, right? They're not real, true friends that you keep forever. And there are people who come into your life just for like a little season, and they're really important to you for a little while, and then they move on. But the thing about them as well is that their friendship is, temporary, right? It's not a long-term commitment. And then there are those friends that you have for a long time. Maybe you grew up, but you stayed in the same town. You may be long-term friends. Maybe you met them in college. Or maybe you worked with them for years, and that friendship blossomed, and you continued it on into retirement. Those good friends. Those friends you can call at 3 o'clock in the morning, they'll actually pick up the phone. Do you have any of those friends? Those friends are hard to come by. Those are those true friends. Those friends that will cry with you and they'll laugh with you. Those friends that are all in without exception. Those friends that care about you. Those friends you can let your hair down, so to speak. If you don't have any, you don't have to. But you know what I'm saying? You can kind of relax with them. When you're with them, you don't have to have your guard up. You can say whatever you want. They'll hear your sarcasm. They'll hear your rants and their raves. And you know what? They'll still be your friend. They don't mind when you complain sometimes. They'll listen. They don't mind sometimes when you get cranky and you're rude. They'll put up with you. They'll tolerate you. You might even disagree from time to time, but they're still going to be your friend. That's true friendship. That's friendship without exception. That's commitment. As I look at my life, I probably have 2 or 3 friends like that. Of all the people I've met in my life, on a planet with 7 billion people, I probably have 2, maybe 3 friends like that. Because they're hard to come by, aren't they? Aren't they? You know. I can see it by the looks on your face. You know what I'm talking about. How about you? How many friends do you got? Real friends. True friends. All-in friends. Not that you're just good, they're committed to you, but you're committed to them as well. I mean, how many of those friends do you have? Is it 2, 3, 5, a dozen? I asked a couple people this week, and most of them said 2. I'm just curious. It was just me. Maybe I just don't make friends that easy. I don't know. but they said, no, 2 people they're really committed to. Commitment's a hard thing to come by. That's why it's important that we listen to this verse today and we hear what it has to say. And before we get into the actual meat of it, let me give you a little background of what's happened in Naomi's life, because there's more to the book of Ruth. And I just kind of skipped down to chapter 11 and started reading. But what's happened is Naomi and her husband, there was a famine in Israel. And they moved about 50 miles east to, and I'm butcher all the names, Moab. There's a country in Moab. And there wasn't a famine there. There was plenty of food. So they moved with their 2 sons to Moab. And during their time in Moab, her husband dies. And she's left with her 2 sons, who married 2 local girls, Orpah and Ruth. We don't hear much about Orpah, other than the very first one. But these 2 girls, and at that time, they lived together for about 10 years, and about 10 years into the thing, the 2 sons died. Now, you shouldn't take that so lightly. You say, well, that's sad, but it's not the end of the world. In that time, it kind of was a very big thing, because it was a very male-oriented society. You know, women were basically dependent on males for a living. It was a very agricultural society, a lot of farming. The males did most of the work, the heavy lifting, those type things. If you didn't grow crops, you didn't eat. There wasn't a lot of ways for women to make money. It wasn't like today's society, where things are a little bit different. So this is kind of a big deal. So they have no relatives, they have no men to take care of them, so to speak. So what are these women to do? They kind of weigh their options, and Naomi hears that the famine is over back in Israel. So she decides that she's going to return to her people. And she informs her 2 daughter-in-laws of this. But she urges them to stay. You would be better off staying here. Because she knows the journey is going to be a long journey. And it's going to be a lonely journey. And it's going to be hard. There's not going to be anything easy. And she doesn't even know what awaits her when she gets back to Bethlehem. So she knows tough times are ahead. So she encourages her 2 daughter-in-laws, stay here. Stay here and remarry. You would be better off. It's what's best for you. But I'm going to go back to my people. And at first the girls don't want to go. They want to stay with her. But she tells them, this is really what's best for you. And they have a good cry together. Because everybody needs a good cry. And once they've had the good cry, we see that Orpah walks away. She decides that, indeed, she's going to stay. She's going to go back to her own people where she can be provided for and stay. And Naomi turns to Ruth and she tells Ruth, said, your sister-in-law's going. Go with your sister-in-law. That's what's best for you. That's where you're going to be best provided. Go. It's okay. And that's where we get to the meat of this scripture reading. Because what Ruth says to Naomi, is something most of us have heard in our lifetime. We've heard this saying, it's been repeated back to us. But she tells us, she says, don't tell me to go. She goes, because where you go, I go. Where you stay, I'll stay. Your God will be my God. Your people will be my people. Where you die, I will die. And where you're buried, I will be buried. She's saying, I'm with you no matter what. I mean, you don't get, beyond burial, you don't get much. I'm going to be with you till the end, is what she's saying. Nothing is going to separate us. And she says that knowing that they're going to a strange land. She knows they're going to a place where she doesn't know the culture, where she doesn't have any friends or family. It doesn't matter. Where there are going to be some rough times. It's going to be a rough journey. And she knows that. But it doesn't really matter to her. She simply says, where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. Where you die, I'll die. I'm all in without exception. That's a special kind of commitment, is it not? That's maybe why you hear that verse so many times at weddings, because that's the kind of commitment we're looking for at weddings. But unfortunately, in today's society, we so seldom see that. With a divorce rate that's always on the rise, people seem to be in it until it ain't good for them anymore. Right? They bail so easily. Commitment doesn't mean anything anymore, does it? You know, you remember when a handshake used to be all you needed? Now you need a contract. This thick. To say the same thing. Why? Because commitment ain't what it used to be. And loyalty is very seldom seen. But we need to reintroduce the world to loyalty and what it means to be committed and what it means to us as followers. You see, we need to be committed to our God that way, first off. We need to be dedicated, and we've talked about that over the last few weeks, about getting to know God, and being committed to God, and being all in without exception, not just when it's convenient, but all the time. Right? Because that's true commitment. And then we need to talk about that in our relationships with other people. Are we all in? Or are we in until, it just doesn't have any payoff for me anymore. It's just not working for me anymore, so I'm out. You know? Am I your friend all the time, or am I your friend until times get tough? Maybe if we were more committed to people, they'd be more committed to us. Right? God is already committed to you. But how is your relationship with Him? Are you committed? Or is it just hit and miss? You know, what if we took the values or how we approach our commitment to God and to others, and we took that into everyday life? Let's just look at that for a minute. What if your hot water heater gave you hot water every third day? Would that be reliable? Would you say that's a reliable water heater? No, probably not. What if your refrigerator worked 2 hours a day and they took the rest of the time off? Would that even be a useful refrigerator? No, it wouldn't, would it? What would it be like if the important things in our life, what if your car started every third time you tried to start it? Is that a car you want to keep? No. You see this hit and miss, hit sometimes, miss sometimes, that's not what commitment's all about. And if we took those same things and if we applied the way we treat God, the way we treat other people, the way we treat other things, we'd be very disappointed about their reliability, trustworthiness of the things in our lives. We need to be what we seek for other people to be. You know, we need to be there in good times, but we also need to be there in bad times. Right? We need to support other people when they're going through a tough time. It's easy to support somebody when they're having a good day, isn't it? That's a piece of cake. Everybody wants to be a part of that. I'm all in, yeah. I can cheer for you when things are going good, but what about when they get bad? I remember the story of Babe Ruth, and he was a dynamite hitter. He had 714 home runs. And late in his career, the Yankees traded him to the Braves. And his late career wasn't much to talk about. And as a matter of fact, near the very end, there was a game against Cincinnati, and he had created so many errors in one inning that he allowed single-handedly Cincinnati to score 5 runs. And at the end of the inning, the fans were not happy, as you can imagine. Now, these are the same fans that had cheered for him and loved him and adored him as a superstar. But as he walked back to the dugout, they began to boo. They began to boo and shake their fists and yell obscenities. I can't even talk about those in here. I can't repeat them. They were not nice. And then all of a sudden, out of the stands came a little boy. And he ran up and he wrapped his arms around Babe Ruth's leg. He hugged him. Babe Ruth stopped. And he picked him up and he hugged him. And put him down, patted the boy on the head. And they held hands and walked off the field together. So that little boy demonstrated more loyalty than all those adults. And he realized there's going to be bad days. It doesn't change the people, does it? There's going to be bad times, but you still have to love the people, right? You don't stop loving your wife just because she has a bad day. I hope. Right? Ladies, you don't kill your husbands just because they have come home angry. Why? You're committed. You love them. Right? It's what we do. And as Christians, we're called to do that for the world. That's what we're supposed to show what Christ would do when we encounter relationships with other people. That's what we're supposed to be a reflection of as believers. You know, I asked you earlier, how many friends do you have? You have one, two, and you thought in your head, some of you were, so I got 50. And I'm not talking about Facebook friends. There's a whole lot of Facebook friends. People you don't even know. But I'm talking about real friends. And I asked you, how many Ruths do you have in your life? How many people do you have that are there for you no matter what? How many Ruths do you have? But you know, that's not really the real question. The real question for today, and I want you to take this in. How many people are you Ruth to? How many people are you there for without exception? Because I think you'll find the answer to the first and the answer to the second. How many people are Ruth to you will probably be a direct reflection of how many people you are Ruth to. But see, we're called to be Ruth-like. We're called to live in that spirit of Ruth and to be there for those who need us. To have that commitment and loyalty to our God and in all our relationships. And trust me, as you look out in the world, there is a big need for a lot of Ruths. There are a lot of folks out there who need people to love them. There are a lot of folks out there who need people to be committed to them and to be loyal to them. They're looking for it. They're looking to see where they can find it. Will they find it in you? Is the question. Do we buy into the world's definition of loyalty? Do we buy into the world's definition of commitment? That definition says it's good until it ain't. Right? I'm here until it's not convenient. I'm with you until it's too expensive. I'm with you until the burden becomes a little bit too much for me to carry. Or do we buy into Ruth's definition of commitment, where she says, where you go, I go. Where you stay, I stay. Your people will be my people. Your God, my God. Where you die, I will die. Where you're buried, I will be buried there also. Do we buy into that total commitment without exception? Are we willing to be that kind of friend? Are we willing to have that kind of relationship? That's the question for the day. Are you somebody's Ruth? Are you willing to be somebody's Ruth? I would encourage you to make whatever changes you need to make, to be totally committed to your God, to worship Him daily, to spend time with Him in the Word, to be here every Sunday. He doesn't take every Sunday off from you, does He? He's with you 24/7, all the time. Come here and worship Him. Give Him the praise in which He's deserved. And secondly, I would encourage you to apply the Ruth concept to all your relationships. Be open to that. Be open to be with people, to be loyal to people, to stand by people. Let your handshake and your word be your bond. Be committed. Be a BFF without exception. And all God's people said, Amen.